What happened to you covered in blood? My high school freshman daughter Becky, who was supposed to have gone to my husband's family home with him, returned home bleeding from her forehead, so I screamed in shock. After hastily treating her wounds, I immediately contacted my husband, Ryan, and when he answered the phone, I couldn't help but yell at him. Ryan, where are you?
I told you I'm on a business trip, didn't I?
I was stunned by his unexpected reply. After all, I had seen him off with Becky 5 days earlier, heading to his family home. Before me stood my daughter, seriously injured. Seeing my confusion, Becky told me a shocking truth. My name is Kathy Hansen, a 40-year-old part-time housewife. My husband Ryan, the same age as me, is a salesman who visits various schools to sell high school teaching materials. He always says, "Trust is important." It looks so cool being diligent and proper. Becky became a high school freshman this spring. Once a clingy child who couldn't leave my side, she's now so responsible that she cooks dinner while waiting for me to return from my part-time job. Life was peaceful with my husband and daughter, but 5 years ago my mother became bedridden due to an internal illness. Since then, I've been busy juggling caregiving and my part-time job. I couldn't even manage to visit my in-laws, only managing to greet them during the Christmas holidays. During such times, Ryan would say jokingly,
"Don't overdo it. Aren't you lucky to have an understanding husband?"
and would go to visit his family home alone, laughing. I felt terrible but grateful as I was overwhelmed with caring for my mother. 3 years ago, however, my mother-in-law passed away suddenly in an accident. My father-in-law, who was very close to her, became deeply depressed, and Ryan's visits to his family home became more frequent. Moreover, Ryan said things like,
"I want to take Dad on a trip to cheer him up,"
and
"I want to treat him to some delicious meal."
With each visit, the expenses increased. $300, $500. But I couldn't complain about money as I hadn't been able to visit my in-laws myself. One day, Ryan mentioned the cost of his next visit.
"I need $1,000 for my next trip home."
What? I doubted if such a large sum was really necessary for visiting back home, but he never explained the details of the expenses. It must be necessary. I should think of it as a way of showing how thankful I am to my father-in-law. I convinced myself of this. However, due to the sudden expense, I had no choice but to temporarily withdraw money from the savings account I had set aside for Becky's school fees. I'll have to skip going to the beauty salon for a while and make sure not to dip into Becky's money again. I began to save diligently, gradually returning money to Becky's account. As Becky's exams finally ended and things settled down, my father-in-law said,
"I want to see my granddaughter again." "All right, I'll take Becky and Dad to eat seafood as a reward for their hard work."
Really? Yay! Seeing Becky's beaming smile, I stroked her head, saying, "Thank you for always being so patient." She never complained, even though she always had to endure and even helped with caring for my mother. I was filled with gratitude. Then, on the morning of their departure to visit my father-in-law, Becky said, "I'll buy some souvenirs and come back." I replied, "Have fun." We were all smiling. Little did we know what was about to happen. 5 days after Ryan and Becky left for my in-laws around noon, I was preparing lunch in the kitchen when I heard the front door rattle open. "Who is it, entering without ringing the doorbell?" I was startled and headed to the entrance, shouting, "Yes," only to find Becky standing there bleeding from her forehead. What on earth happened? I screamed, almost in a shriek, and looking around for Ryan, but he was nowhere to be seen. Trembling, I brought Becky inside and immediately called Ryan. "Ryan, where are you?"
"I'm at work. Didn't I tell you that I left for a business trip the day after taking Becky to my parents' home?"
I was utterly confused, having heard nothing of this work. I had no idea about that, and more importantly, Becky has come home seriously injured.
"She probably just fell. Don't take it too seriously. Girls her age tend to exaggerate. Bye."
Ryan hung up quickly after saying just that. I couldn't possibly accept such a nonsensical story. While tending to Becky, I asked her, "Why are you injured? And did Dad leave for work?" Becky, her face pale, kept her trembling lips sealed for a while, but then she whispered, "Dad, he pushed me." Shocked, I gently rubbed Becky's back as I listened to her story. An unbelievable truth was exposed. Ryan had been keeping secrets from us, and he had injured Becky when she discovered them. And that's not all. He threatened her while she was bleeding, saying,
"If you tell anyone about this, next time it won't just be an injury."
Becky had managed to escape from my in-laws' house when Ryan hesitated as my father-in-law returned back home. Fortunately, she had some money with her and was able to take the bus back home, but how anxious she must have been hiding her injury all the way here. I will never forgive anyone who hurts my sweet Becky. Angry not only at Ryan for abusing Becky, but also at the secrets he had kept, I vowed for revenge. After hearing everything from Becky, I was about to call my father-in-law when I was shocked to see numerous missed calls from him on my phone. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't notice the phone while I was cooking."
"No, it's fine. More importantly, I heard Becky had to rush back due to some urgent matter. Did she arrive safely at your place? That's what I've been worried about and why I called so many times."
Hearing my father-in-law's words left me speechless. My husband, Ryan, had fabricated such a lie to cover up the fact that our daughter, who he had injured, had fled back to our home. I then spilled everything to my father-in-law, who was oblivious to it all. "Becky is fine. I'm taking her to the hospital, but I can't forgive Ryan. Can you keep him at your house a bit longer? I want to give him a piece of my mind." My father-in-law immediately agreed, promising his cooperation. He said he would cunningly persuade Ryan to stay at their home for a while longer. In the meantime, I ran around making preparations for a confrontation with my husband. 5 days later, after completing the investigation into Ryan's secrets, I was on my way to my in-laws' house. Just as I was about to ring the doorbell, I saw Becky running up to me, out of breath. "Mom, wait for me." "Didn't I tell you to wait at home?" "I can't just sit around. I have to confront him about what he did to me." I had planned to go into my in-laws' house alone, not wanting Becky to witness the argument between my husband and I. But it seemed Becky didn't want to just stay put. "I think I have a right to speak up too." Becky was unyielding. Reluctantly, I accepted her anger and decided to fight this together. We were greeted by my father-in-law, who was already aware of the plan. Entering the living room, we found Ryan, who appeared to have just woken up, lounging in his pajamas and watching TV. "Oh, weren't you supposed to be on a business trip?" Ryan, startled by my sudden voice, jumped up. He started making lame excuses about how he was supposed to go, but then didn't need to. Well, that doesn't matter now. What I want to know about is Becky's injury.
"Oh, that. Clumsy her. Seems like she fell down the stairs and hit her forehead."
I was about to yell at my husband for feigning ignorance, but my father-in-law spoke first.
"Enough. I know that Becky's injury is your fault."
Becky also chimed in. "Yeah, that's right." And I glared at Ryan. Cornered, Ryan started to look nervous, but then suddenly seemed to have an idea and argued back.
"As if you have the right to talk. You never visited my parents, but I was the one taking care of them."
Ryan, smug and grinning, thought I wouldn't be able to say anything. Indeed, I had kept quiet before, thinking he was right. But after hearing Becky's story, I knew Ryan's words were full of lies. "Oh, really? Leaving all the housework to your daughter and not spending time with your father is called taking care of the family?" "Yeah, ever since you brought me here, you've been lazing around at home."
"Shut up. This is just a one-time thing. I'm usually the one working hard."
Watching Ryan boast, I pulled out my father-in-law's account of household expenses that I had previously obtained. It detailed not only the money in and out, but also how Ryan spent his time at his parents' house. Let me tell you what's written here. June 10th gave Ryan $200 for transportation. He lazed around all day as usual, went out at night, and returned in the morning. Food expenses increased because of Ryan's presence. I calmly read out the details. According to this, every time Ryan visited, he lied about me not giving him transportation money and received cash from his father. Taking advantage of my absence, Ryan had painted me as a stingy evil wife to gain sympathy from his father. How can you not be ashamed of mooching off your parents at your age? And getting all sorts of help too.
I felt sorry for him, thinking he didn't have any money, and tried to help out. All that was a lie too.
Cornered by our accusations, Ryan fell silent, at a loss for words. What have you been using all that money for, I wonder?
Well...
No need to say anything. You're probably just thinking up another pathetic lie. Ignoring Ryan's mumbling, I presented a photo in front of him. You needed so much money because you were splurging at places like this, right?
How do you know about this place?
The photo showed Ryan entering a gentleman's club. Surprised that I knew about it, the color drained from his face. The secret that Becky had discovered while Ryan was visiting his parents was this. She thought Ryan was diligently caring for his father, but he was actually going out at night and returning in the morning. Suspicious, she secretly investigated and installed an app on his phone to track his location. After he left, she checked his whereabouts on a computer, always finding him at the same place. Researching online, Becky found out it was a gentleman's club. Shocked, she was about to call me when Ryan returned home. He found her researching the location and the club on the computer and, in a fit of rage, pushed her. Becky hit her head on the corner of a dresser, causing the bleeding. And the rest is as you know. After hearing Becky's story, I left my mother in the care of professionals for a few days and went to the club to gather evidence of Ryan's wasteful spending. And the shock I felt seeing my husband cheerfully entering the club. The money for this visit, even if temporary, was taken from Becky's school fund, and you used it for this? Dad, you're the worst. Ryan, cornered by undeniable evidence, muttered weakly.
Isn't this normal for men?
And looked up at his father for support.
What are you talking about? Using your child's school money for your satisfaction is inexcusable for any man. I'm tired from work. Isn't it okay to have a little fun?
Becky sighed in exasperation at Ryan's stubbornness. Mom, do you know what kind of place that is? Huh? Oh no, I just took the photo and left immediately. I thought so. Here, take this. Becky said this as she laid out several printed pages of the club's website on the table. Looking over them with my father-in-law, we saw that the outfits worn by the girls at the club were school uniforms. They all seemed to be adults, but it was a gentleman's club where they cosplayed in revealing school uniforms. Seeing this, I thought to myself, exposing my daughter of this age to such a world. I was filled with anger, but Becky seemed unfazed. So, Dad, you like this kind of stuff, huh? Gross. She handed the papers to Ryan with a shudder, as if the idea was repulsive.
Well, you don't have to say it like that.
You know, if your clients at the schools found out about your love for girls with uniforms, it could be a big problem, right? I doubt your company, which sells educational materials to schools, would want to keep an employee with such hobbies. I said this with an icy stare, and Ryan turned pale. I quickly grabbed Ryan's schedule book, which was left in his business bag, and found it easily. Looking at this, now I know all the schools you've been visiting. Maybe I should inform your clients about your wonderful hobby.
Please, spare me that. I'm sorry, I went too far. I'll change my ways from now on.
Realizing he couldn't escape, Ryan started trembling and knelt down. He apologized profusely, but years of frequenting those clubs and wasting money, not to mention injuring our daughter, were not forgivable. Who would believe a liar like you, Dad? I've consulted with a lawyer and I'm ready to proceed with a divorce. I'll make sure you pay back all the money you squandered on your indulgences, plus compensation. This is the end for us.
But...
Ryan tried to cling to Becky, but she dodged him, saying, "Ew, gross!" And eventually he broke down crying. We glared at him coldly, seeing how pathetic he was. Soon after, the divorce was finalized, and I demanded from Ryan the $15,000 he had squandered and $30,000 in compensation. Eventually, word of his club visits leaked to his company, and Ryan was fired. Even his father cut ties with him, and now he lives alone in a rundown house, barely making ends meet with day-to-day jobs. Unable to afford the compensation payments, he ended up borrowing money from shady lenders and now lives in fear of debt collectors. Meanwhile, I have found more time to myself after the divorce. With Becky's help, my mother's health improved significantly and she no longer needs care. Now, the three of us women are enjoying a happy and harmonious life together.